Collective is a group of like-minded people from all around the world at different stages of their guitar building journey. You can join us over on our forum to seek advice or share tips on guitar building processes, materials and tools, or just to share your builds. On YouTube, we have a regular podcast of guitar building chat where you can join the live stream or watch back on past episodes. Our Instagram page shares posts of members' builds and links you direct to their accounts. And for those of you on Facebook, we've got a private group that you can join, share and chat along with. The Guitar Builders Collective is a welcome and open space for all, so do pop by and say hi. Hello. Hi, people.
Hey. Good morning. Good morning. Or afternoon for you.
Yeah. So I think are we in 4 time zones? Are you in the same time zone, Jackson, as Scott and Mark?
Scott and I are in the same time zone.
Oh. Yeah. I get confused. Like I've said this before, America's so big, I can't get my head around the fact there's different time zones. And for me to travel across my entire country is sounds like Scott going to visit Mark in Texas.
Yep.
There we go. Great tip for anyone that's new here. Hopefully there'll be some new people because of Jackson. We have this live stream every week. Scott and myself have been doing it now. This is the 31st episode. Mark's been the guest a few times and is now joining us every now and then, which is very welcome. What we're hoping is we have guests that come on that talk about guitar building and guitar building related things, and that it's just a conversation. People come and go, and hopefully we'll have return visitors and people that might want to take part regularly. So we'll see what happens. So yeah, Scott is Bonehead Guitars. Mark is Mark Gutierrez on YouTube, and I have to do it. Some of you may know him as from the Great Guitar Build Off. Some of you may know him from the regular chats on the live streams on Crimson and Daily Guitar Draw. Some of you might know him as Jackson, but some of you will know him as Big Unit Guitars. So welcome. I fluffed that a bit, but I'm
a man of many hats.
Yeah, no, I definitely remember first seeing you, Jackson, and the Great Guitar Build Off 2 years ago. I think it must have been.
22 was my first one.
Yeah. And your intro being really interesting because you clearly have been around guitars a long time. But yeah. Am I right? That was your first time building.
That was my first time tackling everything from the ground up. I've been working on guitars for decades, but the actual woodworking, like taking blank chunks of wood and making it into a guitar, that was my first time doing that.
Cool. And what was it that drew you to actually making that step or that change over from all repairing and playing to actually wanting to build?
To be honest, I tell everybody, it seems like just about everybody I know developed a hobby during COVID. You know, everybody was just sitting at home, sitting on their hands, getting, anxious because they had nothing to do, couldn't leave the house and stuff. And so I started going back out into the shop and building stuff. The first thing I built a pedal board box for my Kemper pedal and the expression pedals. And it was like, I'm really enjoying doing woodworking stuff. And so I just started doing little things around the house, woodworking things. And then I had a couple of guys that I knew. We used to live in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I had a couple of guys that I knew that, needed a new nut on their guitar or, needed a fret level crown and polish. And I was like, well, those are some things that I hadn't done. Mostly my stuff had been electronics and things, but let's look up some videos. And of course I fell down a rabbit hole. I mean, watching Crimson, watching Bonehead, watching Sweet Tea, it snowballed. And after watching it for a while, it's like, I think maybe I could do this. And yeah, so then 2022, I decided to jump in feet first and hope for the best.
I don't know why it's intimidating. It really, you build it up so much in your head, but you just jump in and try. And I mean, you're gonna make a piece of garbage, but But you just get started. That's all it takes. And I don't know
why does it seem so magical in our heads when we first think about building a guitar? It's like, man, you can't do that. It takes engineering degrees and stuff to do that, right? You know?
I don't know what that mental block is, but I mean, with anything creative that you haven't tried before, I don't know why you just worry so much. Just try it. Just shot, see what the hell happens. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? You destroy $200 worth of wood.
Yeah.
That definitely is not the worst thing I've ever wasted money on. So, you know.
Yeah. I think one thing that the guitar YouTube videos opened up for me was this idea that so many people can do it with everyday equipment. You don't need to have expensive or posh or unique equipment that's very specifically guitar building.
Same thing with the skill set. Like when I got into it, it felt like guitar building was married to woodworking, right? Mm-hmm. And I felt that you needed that skill set, but you don't. Like, in fact, I tried to sort of abandon everything related to woodworking because a lot of the guitar builders I was seeing on YouTube were building a lot of jigs and templates. And I told myself, I don't want to build jigs or templates. I want to build guitars. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of like what springboarded me into it.
Oh, man, I killed 2 hours the other day just building a 7-string pickup template out of plexiglass. And it's like, I look at some of these other things and guys are like, well, why do you use that jig? Why don't you make it like this or that? Because I'm tired of building jigs. I'm trying to build guitars here, you know?
Yeah.
I do like building jigs and templates. I used to like building templates. That's starting to get old, but there are some things about it that I do enjoy. But yeah, I don't like spending 2-3 hours making a damn template, especially a one-time use one. But
and especially when you intended to get out there and build a guitar today, and then you ended up, sidetracking on that instead.
Yeah, I noticed next week we got Dave Dickens, and he loves making jigs.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the first thing you think of when you think of Dave is jigs.
Yeah, I have to say, maybe it's because of where I'm at the moment. We're talking just before we went live, about having a bit of a block or not being motivated to work. But I've spent a lot of time when I should have been building guitars in the last few months, building jigs or building storage things for my tools, just because it's still making. I'm enjoying the making, but I'm not actually making the guitar, and I don't know why that is. Well, maybe there's some intimidation about my next design idea, or sometimes I find, though, building those things really helps me think through what I want to do. And just the process of making something, even if it's just a drawer divider, it gets me sort of in the flow and makes me feel a bit more creative again. So, we'll talk a bit later about this sort of block that a few of us are having. But yeah, it's easy to get distracted by non-guitar things, but the sort of tangential stuff.
Well, there's the honeydew list, too, that you always got to think about. Mrs. Unit had me build her a banana stand. So, one of those hangers that you hang bananas with,
I was about to say, is that a euphemism?
And, of course, I couldn't just build, a hunk of wood that has a hook in it that you hang bananas on. I made it look like a palm tree, and so like a banana tree. So it's all really neat looking, and it turned out nice. But yeah, once again, kill a couple days in the shop doing something that had nothing to do with guitars. And
Owen's just put up, there's always money in the banana stand, and that's the first thing I thought of. For those who don't know, it's an Arrested Development reference, which is one of the greatest comedies out there. So if we step back a minute, your first build that you made, Jackson, one thing I liked about that video at the end of the Great Guitar Build Off of yours, and I've noticed you do it on your one recently when you finished a Les Paul, is you do a very honest kind of critical reflection on your build, and you talk about what worked, what you might change a bit next time, and things that you might be a bit disappointed with that you're going to do differently. And I don't see that many builders doing that honest sort of reflection at the end. I think it's really brilliant.
You know, I remember for a while there, you know, one of Ben's hashtags was always be learning, you know, and I know like some of the other guys that participate in Maker Central and stuff like that, they also, you know, talk about that, you know, don't get stuck in a rut, don't stagnate, always learn something from what you're doing and things. And that's something that I try to, you know, make a point of. It's like, okay, here's where I, you know, probably shouldn't have done that or things, you know, and it's one of the things I even said to Scott a while back. I was like, I'm still trying to figure out my order of operations. And he said, yeah, that's something that you probably never totally get worked out because it changes with each guitar on what your order of operations should be. You know, I just painted myself in a corner on this one. I haven't made it known on the last video that I posted. It'll be on the next one. But I was initially planning on doing a long tenon set neck on this guitar, but it doesn't have a neck pickup. And I already glued the top on.
Yeah, right.
So now how do you hide the tenon? So it might end up being your bolt on, even though I planned on doing a set neck. So
maybe you'll find some other workaround, some inlay that can go on the top that'd be really cool or something.
I've been a software developer for 30 years, and at the core, once you get past syntax and all that nonsense, it's just process. It's process analysis. That's it. That's one of the things that's really kept me interested in building is that you have to walk through process and figure out what follows what, and there are situations like that where, you know, the order of operations is a little different in this situation, and that changes a whole bunch of things. And there are a number of things that don't necessarily have to happen in order, and figuring all those things out and learning that it keeps them all interesting to me. It's one of the jobs that I've always enjoyed.
I'm at the point where I'm trying to like remove steps in the process. And I've said this so many times that if you look at the end-to-end process holistically, there's too many steps. And when you see how many steps there are and you look back and view it, you're like, why do we do this? Like, why the heck do we do this? It's so much work. The level of effort is huge. And so I get that you don't want to cut corners, but if you can optimize that process, if you can start removing things from it and simplifying it, then you're going to actually achieve something really good. And you're going to have a lot more fun with it. And that's where I'm at now, just rethinking every single thing. Like, why do we do this? Why do we do this? Why do we do this? Can we remove it?
I've started to get that way watching other people, you know, thinking, why does this need to happen? For one thing, because if there is actual value there, it's good to understand, you know, the nuance of why this actually does need to happen and how this is beneficial. But there seems to be, okay, so many of us, you know, started initially when Ben was basically all there was to watch. So a lot of the things we've drug along with us are, you know, Ben-isms that some, you know, as time has gone by and I've started to realize that's not really right. So advice to, you know, steps to the way you do things. I mean, you know, he romanticizes tools, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I think we've brought some of that along with us as well. So at some point, it is good to step back and say, is this really necessary, and why?
Yeah, do I really need 9 planes?
Is there a better way to do this? Or, yeah.
I do think, though, that for me, I appreciate what you're saying, Mark, about getting rid of some steps. But for me, some of those steps were there while I was getting better at it. And some of those steps disappear. Like, for example, going back to jigs, sometimes if you've got a jig set up for something, you can do quite a few things in one go that used to be lots of individual parts. But yeah, it would be great to just get rid of even though some of those bits that were, as you say, you've said before, Mark, the guitar building and the guitar playing traditions that have been there from the beginning. We've always done. Why do we do it like that?
Right. And the big one for me for the past few years has been the neck and the truss rod and the idea of like quarter sawn wood and the idea of wood being an inferior material, yet we still use it for necks. And we do all sorts of things, laminating, carbon fiber stiffening rods. We do all these things because wood is an inferior material to build necks. And so all those steps, if you think about it, right? Laminating wood, quarter sawn wood, carbon fiber stiffening rods, truss rod, that's a lot of steps for just a neck. Why not just use another material, right? You save so much time just using another material.
Has any manufacturer ever made a carbon fiber neck?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that would probably solve quite a few of the issues.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know how it would resonate, but
I wonder if it wouldn't solve the issue of traditionalists, people that are desperate for the original thing. It would need innovators to change it. And
of course, traditionalists fought against the veloute on Gibsons too, and look how that turned out. So
now we're back talking about how guitar people are dumb.
Yes. Right.
Very entrenched in some very, small number of traditions.
Yeah.
Has to be a single piece maple, and
actually, this is potentially a good question for Jackson, because we can see behind you, and you've mentioned your videos before, how much you like Les Pauls.
Yes.
Do you find in all the different models you've got there, you notice difference in the way they've been built or the materials they've used, or is it really just the components, the electronics that you? The
actual Epiphones and Gibsons, they very much stick to a set road, but I have some other ones that are custom builds, so they're a little bit different. Like I had one guitar that was built from Warmouth, and instead of mahogany, maple, and rosewood, or it's mahogany body with a maple top, but then the neck is actually maple with an ebony fretboard. Does it affect the playability at all? No. But I do think it sounds a little brighter than the one that I have that's also a Warmouth guitar. That's mahogany, maple, and ebony. So is it a huge difference? No. Would an average person catch it? Probably not. But a person who plays regularly, you do hear that the green one that has the maple neck is a little brighter.
Interesting. I wonder as well, because I don't really understand what your background is. You work in electronics, is that right?
No, I'm an electrician.
Right.
Okay, so I grew up in a family of electricians. So I kind of got drug into the trade kicking and screaming as a kid. I always tell people that my dad taught the electrical program at the college for years, and he had a 9-month contract, so he had summers off. So he would contract in the summers to supplement his income. And those 3 months in the summer also coincided with the 3 months that I wasn't busy with school. So, right, free cheap labor. And so I was learning how to bend conduit, pull wire, terminate devices, and stuff like that as a teenager. So I came up in the electrical trade as an electrician. But then with the guitar side of things, that was all electronics, and that was pretty much kind of learning as I went at first, but my dad did have, some electronics background too. So when my guitar all of a sudden was making this horrible crackly, scratchy noise and stuff like that, every time I'd plug the cord into it, Dad's like, let's replace the jack. It's like, oh, you can do that? And we went down to Radio Shack and got some parts, and he showed me how to solder in a new jack, and away we went. And that kind of started me down that journey, and I had an old pedal that the 9-volt battery harness was too tight, and when I went to take the battery out, it ripped the negative post off the battery terminal. So go down to Radio Shack and grab a new 9-volt battery harness and solder it in there. And I started getting into doing electronics and stuff like that with my guitars and pedals and things like that. And then when I went to college for electrical, because I did decide to go to college for electrical, there was a whole semester on electronics. Right. And then really got into the minutia of how it works and why it works and things like that.
Yeah, because I remember you saying in the stream the other day how you enjoyed the wiring element of guitars.
I do.
And a lot of people don't. That's the bit they leave to the end.
Right.
And do the simple and
I probably understood it. But it's funny, the GGBO build this year was for a friend's kid. And they came over a few weeks ago. There was a little buzz that was happening on there. And, I brought it over to see if I could figure out what was going on and fix it. And like, shit, I don't know. But he's an electrician. And I was like, dude, you're an electrician. You should know this better than I do. And he said, if it ain't 1,000 volts, I don't know what to do with it. Okay. And I would have guessed you had all kinds of soldering irons at home. And,
there's so many avenues to this trade. I mean, I teach electrical safety both at the 50 to 600 volt and the 50 to 35,000 volt. And I mean, the differences are pretty severe when you start talking about getting into, 34,500 volt transformers versus, 120 volt controls cabinet. There's a pretty big difference there on what you got to protect yourself with.
That's crazy. Hey, Jackson, just a quick question. I know I got into building tube amps a while back, and I don't build very many because they're the worst performing videos that I've ever made. Like, no one wants to watch me build tube amps, right? But I got into it, like, just rabbit hole, love building tube amps. So as being an electrician with that background, do you have you ever built any kind of amps?
I never have, and it's not something I ever really got a chance to get into, really. I've replaced components in amps before and stuff like that. Vacuum tube amps, though, it was always this big, nefarious monster. Don't mess with those. The capacitors can kill you and stuff like that. And they're not kidding.
Oh, yeah.
They can. But, knowing what you're getting into and stuff like that, it's no more dangerous than an electrical panel or anything like that. You just got to know what you're doing and be careful. But no, I never really got into the manufacturing side of amps. I've never tried to build one. Probably should at some point.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
If I knew what I was doing with electronics, I would get into, pedals and stuff. That seems like it would be so cool to, get into pedal building.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, we're in the wrong business. Like, building pedals is so lucrative, like way more lucrative than guitar building, because you're talking about buying components with pennies.
Yeah.
Right? And your profit margin is huge.
You bet.
So we're definitely in the wrong business right now.
Yeah. I heard some pedal builders saying that the pedal building market is so flooded with boutique builders now, it's actually really hard to sell your product. But I don't know. I feel like it may be hard to sell your product. It's hard to sell your guitars, and the cost, as you say, Mark, of the difference, and even the time put in potentially, it does seem like a better option.
It is, yeah, and it's also a lot of fun. Like, I got into EagleCAD, so designing circuits on the computer and then having them printed. It's so much easier that way than breadboarding, like the old school way. And then you get to have these manufactured, straight from China, again, at almost no cost.
Yeah.
So your profit margins are huge, and every pedal manufacturer is doing just surface-mounted PCBs, and it's just like, it's so cheap to make, and their profits are gigantic. And it's all about marketing, Daniel. Like, just like building guitars and selling guitars, it's like, how are you going to market this pedal to sell it?
Well, and it's hilarious because I was on a Facebook page the other day too, and it was a luthier's page, and this young man on there is just getting into wiring his he bought a classic Fender and he's rewiring it and stuff, and he posts on the page 2 capacitors. One's got the actual Fender stamp on it. It's one of the old Fender 70s capacitors. And one is, the same picofarad capacitor, but it's just, a generic Chinese one. The Chinese one was like 28 cents and the Fender one was $34.50. He's like, what's the difference? It's like, see that little Fender right there? That's the difference.
Yeah.
You're right. If you measure it on a multimeter, it's all voltage, right?
It's
It's just voltage. It's not like voodoo or anything.
Yeah, the capacitance of the capacitor is the same. It doesn't change. So.
Such a great example of how putting a name to something changes the value so much.
Well,
yeah, big time.
Be a freaking green chiclet or an orange drop or whatever. Yeah,
you bet.
That's another dumb guitarist thing.
Yep.
Yeah, so I noticed the other day that there's a new book out which is about building amps, but it describes itself as the amp building equivalent of guitar making, sorry. So it's meant to be a no frills, do it yourself at home with very common items that you might have around, and could be the stepping stone to other things. I'm intrigued by that. And there's also, I know there's multiple companies, but there's one in the UK that I've bought a couple of pedals from to DIY yourself at home. So you can either just buy the printed PCB for it, or you can buy it with the components, or you can also buy it with the enclosures. Yes, Jed's Peds, as Owen's just said in the chat. And I haven't built them yet, I've just got them. But I just like that as a way into sort of understanding some basics while you're building it. I think this is all something that is hopefully another way of people exploring their own creativity and doing things beyond just buying it yourself.
Yeah, I have a binder about this thick full of like schematics that I've been collecting. And for tube amps, I started with the Fender Champ, which is like the classic, like simple circuit. And I think that's the circuit that everybody should start with, because it's just a piece of cake. It's like literally, I think you can count the components. It's like 12 or 15. It's like just a minimal amount of components. But of course, you're working with high voltage, which is super dangerous, right? So like once it hits that rectifier, you get like 600 volts coming out the other end. You don't want to touch anything on the other end. But yeah, it's all about the schematics. Like, you just can go on Google right now and search for a Fender Champ schematic, and you can see how simple it is. It's like, it's just so simple.
See, and that's one of the things that I love about the electronics, I guess, is that, I understand what's going on. Not trying to sound arrogant or anything, but I understand what's going on. It's like, I know why I'm putting this here and what comes next and how that completes the circuit. And I think that's why a lot of guys don't like electronics, is because it's like, I just know I've got to get all these wires in the right spot or it doesn't make the noise,
It's all alchemy, and if you don't do it right, what first got me interested in the idea was I started off with cigar box guitars, and with the piezo pickups, it tends to be a little tinny, and I don't know the difference in signal. I just know that people started using preamps to actually turn it into a better sounding signal, and I had seen somebody's schematic of a little circuit to do that, and it wasn't a lot of components, but God, it was beyond me. But it did make me think, I really wish I understood this. I wish I could breadboard. There's probably loads of cool things you could do. I've thought for a long time an onboard distortion would be awesome. You just push a button and some things like that. But to this day, I still wish I knew how to produce that preamp for a piezo pickup.
There's no need, Scott. Like, I got into the same thing as you, right? I mean, the problem with piezos is they're high fidelity, so you want a preamp to kind of like tone shape it.
Yeah.
And I've been talking about this forever in my channel. It's just like off-the-shelf components. Right now, if you go on Amazon.com, you type in preamp, right? It comes with the piezo pickup, the undersaddle pickup, and the preamp. And you can get it for like $19. Everything. Right. So like, there's no point anymore for those kind of circuits to like breadboard them yourself, or to, spend the level of effort on them, when off the shelf, you can get everything you want from China for literally nothing.
I just thought it'd be cool to be able to do that. But yeah, well, as soon as I realized that I have no idea how the hell to do that, I noticed there was some dude that was actually selling, little PCP circuit boards with that little circuit. And I never got one, but it would have been cool to know.
Yeah, I remember when I first got a preamp for my ukulele that was putting a piezo in, looking on YouTube at all the different reviews, comparing the expensive preamps you could get to the cheap Chinese ones, and even some of the cheap Chinese ones were actually kind of putting fake labels on to pretend to be other companies. But really, there didn't seem to be that much of a difference in what they do and how well they do it, considering how big the difference in cost is. What it seemed to be more of is the quality of the build of the sort of enclosures and stuff, really. I don't know. I remember, Jackson, on one of your videos, you were talking about, it was the one where you were introducing your Les Paul build, and you were talking about your Les Paul collection. You mentioned that quite a few of them you've upgraded in different ways. Well, yeah. And what sort of upgrades you put in? I presume that's all electronics.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of most of the stock pickups. Like my Gibson, my Blueberry Burst Gibson. I decided to leave that one alone, and just leave it with the Gibson pickups and stuff. But with a lot of my Epiphones and stuff, I've dropped different pickups in them, or I'll put like coil splits in some of them. I put a booster in one of them, and I do that stuff with just about every guitar I own. I don't know, I get it, and I like the guitar, the body and the neck and everything like that, but it's just like, I can hot rod this a little bit,
Is part of it the fun of hot rodding it as opposed to the actual difference it makes?
Yeah, and it goes back to me. I love doing the electronics. It's fun to me to sit there and gut a guitar and redo it the way I want it and stuff. So,
yeah, cool.
I was going to say, I got an 8-string Schecter that just for giggles decided to put a kill switch in it. So,
I don't know. To me, an 8-string Schecter sounds like it's going to be a real metal guitar. And you need a kill switch in a metal guitar.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's actually a thing, because obviously, you mentioned in your intro to some of your videos that you're in a band, and I think some of your is the music on your videos your band as well.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's very heavy. And going back to that traditionalist fault, I don't associate Les Pauls with the sort of music you're making.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't think so.
I mean, yeah, if you look at a Les Paul, a lot of times people look at a Les Paul and think, classic rock or maybe 80s rock, stuff like that. But I mean, it's really a solid platform for heavier metal too, because of the fact that it has such a they've got such a thick sound to them, they don't have the thin single coil sound to them and stuff like that. So yeah, I always think of the big one right now would be Zakk Wylde, Black Label Society and stuff.
James Hetfield.
Yeah. I actually have a custom Les Paul that I had decided to do the chrome bullseye on because I always wanted one of Zakk Wylde's bullseye guitars, and he has one that's black with chrome rings, but they never manufactured that one. They did the black and white one, they did the black and camo one, they never did the black and chrome one. So I was like, I don't know, maybe I can.
Yeah, I think you. Oh yeah, no,
it's right there.
You had it. You showed that in your video. I thought it looked very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I guess when I was growing up listening to metal, everyone in the bands I liked played Flying V's and Jackson's guitars and Warlocks and BC Riches and that kind of thing. And the Les Pauls seemed more of a, like you're saying, more of a classic rock kind of thing. So in my mind, it's that what you've been taught when you're young isn't necessarily true, but what I've sort of imbibed from watching all these videos on MTV is if you're going to play metal, you need something with points on. really.
Right. Well, and I've got plenty of those too. Here, I'll just turn my laptop a second here. I've got plenty of those too.
Nice.
So yeah, I like the pointies too. So
What color is that Warlock back there? Was that peach or pink?
no, it's pink.
Nice.
I actually got that from Ben.
Really?
Yeah. Crimson had bought it for their daily guitar draw thing about, I don't know, a year ago. And I saw it in the background, and I kept asking him about it, I'm like, are you guys going to do anything with that? And he's like, yeah, it needs some work. And then I was like, would you be willing to sell it to me outright? He says, drop me an email. I was like, yes. And no. Because that thing's got the reverse pointy headstock, but that screams 80s glam metal right there,
Totally. There should be more pink guitars as far as I'm concerned.
Right on.
I agree.
Man, one of the first really good examples of a quilted maple dye job I saw was the bubblegum pink, and I fell in love. I have to do that sometime.
Yeah, the one I'm doing right now, it's kind of got the same inspiration that Scott had for his GGBO 23. The mammatus clouds that happen after a hailstorm, where you get the really bubbly clouds and stuff. And when you see it at sunset, where it's blue underneath, but then the tops of the bubbles all look pink. And I'm going to try and do that with the quilt and get that kind of a finish. Now, I know you went more purple and pink. I'm going to try and go more blue and pink and hopefully avoid the purple, but we'll see what happens.
My only requirement on that, the only thing they said was purple's his favorite color. And I just didn't want, when you've got this beautiful piece of maple, I hate doing one single color,
Yeah.
I was trying to think what would go well with it, and pink hit me. I thought, and then I went looking for some examples and saw something that was, holy crap. So I just figured, if you could burst from, something like a red or a pink to purple, I thought that would be awesome. And
that was absolutely beautiful.
It turned out it's almost better than I had actually imagined it.
There's a lot of talk in the chat, Jackson, about your collection.
Yeah. I saw the question. I currently have 42. When my 7-string's done, that'll be 43. So,
and with your guitars as a collection, do you get rid of some sometimes, or is it you bought it for a reason and it stays?
I'll be honest with you. When I was first, trying to make it as a band, I did kind of do the guitar roulette thing for a while there. But I suppose probably around 2002, 2003, I decided I was going to stop flipping them and just keep what I bought. So,
yeah, I'm in the same place. Never sell. That's my kind of catchphrase. Never sell. Just keep everything stored away. Forget about it. Put it under the bed or whatever. Just don't sell. I regret everything I've ever sold. I regret it.
Absolutely. In fact, I have 2 guitars three guitars specifically on the wall right now that I bought way more than I paid for them the first time because I wanted to get them back after I let it go.
100%.
I only have 3 store-bought guitars now, and I've tried to offload 2 of them for a long time and just can't find anybody that will pay what they're worth. But no, I take that back. My dad was a dude rolling through town who needed gas money, and he sold this 73 SG to my dad for, I don't know, maybe $100 or something ridiculous. And I tried playing it in our little band, and it just played horrible. I think I've mentioned this before. And I dropped it on the guy in town that had a little Gibson shop, and it took him like 3 months to get around to it, but he cleaned it up, and oh my God, it's like a whole different guitar. But yeah, I forgot that 73 SG is the one gem that I actually do have. Everything else is, nothing special. It's just
nice.
How could I forget that?
It's interesting. I there was a time in my life where having a guitar collection would definitely have been an ambition, but now it seems to be a rasp and file collection that I'm more interested in.
Growing guitar collection, I need to trim down. We got all these guitars that I've made, and need to. Problem is, a lot of those early ones, they're just not. They're not sale quality.
Someone will buy them, Scott. I promise you. Just
man,
someone will buy it.
Well, every one of them, I'm like, it needs a little bit of, it needs this, it needs that. Every one of them, I feel like it just needs a little bit of work. If I just bother to do it, maybe,
Not even, just full disclosure. It needs this, needs that. Post it for sale. Someone will buy it. I guarantee it.
Interesting.
But I will say that since I started building, I haven't bought a guitar.
Oh.
It was like all of a sudden I started to look at like reverb and stuff like that and started to think I could do that, and all of a sudden it's like, I'm not going to spend money on it if I can do it myself. So
building, I couldn't afford to buy guitars.
Yeah. I had another band that we used to gig with a lot. The lead singer of that band and I are really good friends, and we were really bad golfers, but we decided, just for giggles, since we were in the city, that we would go into one of the local golf shops and look around. And we're looking around, and of course we're talking music, about our shows and stuff like that while we're looking at golf clubs. And this guy, who's probably late 60s, walks up to us, puts his arms around us and, around each one of us and says, "Boys, piece of advice. Only have one expensive hobby at a time." And he walks away. That stuck with me all these years later. It was like, that is solid words of wisdom right there, So it was like, I'm going to get into woodworking. The guitar purchasing needs to stop now because that's a new expensive hobby.
Keep collecting hobbies.
I've got a question for you then, as someone that's now making, who obviously has a collection and has played a lot. Are there things that you've picked up from all the guitars you played that you try to put in your guitars you're building? Like, I know you said you like big necks, and vice versa. Now you're building, are you noticing things in the guitars you've got that actually that's not as good as it could be, or that's amazingly well made or something?
Absolutely. As I've become a builder and stuff like that, and then, somebody asks you if you can work on a guitar for them, or you look at one of your own guitars or things like that, and you notice, even like on my own, it's like, oh, that fret end's kind of sharp all of a sudden. I never noticed that before, but now it's like, I should maybe put a file to that, and, or someone brings a guitar over to have you work on it. And it's, it's a Gibson Les Paul, and he wants new pickups in it, and you take the neck pickup out and there's more glue than wood in that joint. And it's like, what the heck? I mean, the joint's supposed to squeak when you push the neck in. You're not supposed to be able to get a, eighth of an inch of glue around the neck wood in the pocket, and I've started to get those types of things where I'll get a guitar and I'll kind of start picking at it a little bit.
Yeah, I know that like last year when I was doing more repair work, people drop off guitars. And actually, it was more noticeable when I was doing resprays for people. They drop off guitars which were often, I think most of them were Fenders, and there was an Epiphone that when I stripped it, I was just surprised by, with the Fenders, how many pieces of wood it was made from, and with the Epiphone, it was plywood. It just didn't look like that from the surface. And yes, it's a sort of surprise what's hidden when you can access it in a way that you couldn't before.
Yeah, a really thick coat of lacquer can hide a lot of lies, can it?
Back to dumb guitarists. This is the best thing ever made. It's plywood.
But I gotta say, after watching Goth Riders videos, I think you can make a guitar out of pretty much anything and it'll still work. It's like, he built one out of poplar, he built one out of pallet wood. It's like, man, you know.
Before, every time the tone wood argument comes up, I remember watching Dylan Talks Tone. He screwed a neck and a bridge to a picket fence.
Yeah. Did you ever see the one? I can't remember who it was, but he literally bolted a bridge to his bench and bolted some tuning pegs on the other side. There's nothing between the two, and then he just sticks the pickup underneath it and plays it.
I think everybody should watch Jim Lill's videos because it really basically puts the tone wood debate to bed. Done.
Yeah.
Tone does not come from wood.
Yeah. You know, I mean, it might have slight variations, but it's very slight. I mean, you don't really, the average listener will never hear it.
Right. Yeah.
You know? And
I was wondering the other day, and you and Mark might be able to answer this from having played lots of guitars, is as someone that plays a guitar a lot, forget the tone that you can hear, does it feel different, the woods? When you're playing, can you feel like a different vibration in it or something that makes you psychologically think it's different?
I don't know about different vibrations and stuff, but I can definitely tell you I enjoy playing ebony fretboard or maple fretboard a whole lot more than I do like the rosewood or what's the wood they're using a lot now? Is it Palfaro?
Yeah.
Okay. The more porous wood, but I'm a heavy fingered player. I feel the drag of the more porous woods than I do like the really hard, smooth woods like ebony and maple. If you're a light fingered player though, you know, I mean, it probably doesn't affect you. And I know for years that I really liked stainless steel frets until I started building. I don't want to mess with stainless steel. So, and good quality nickel silver doesn't really feel any different than stainless. It's just the cheap stuff that
I hate stainless. When somebody asks me stainless, I'm like, why?
Yeah, a few weeks ago we had someone on, Willis Howard, who builds acoustic guitars, and he was talking about all the subtle differences you get in the wood and the way you cut the braces and all of those things that are noticeable there.
with acoustic. Yes.
Yeah, and that's what got me thinking about that, because like I used to play a lot at home. I had a semi-hollow bass and I'd play it unplugged, and you could feel it against your chest when you're playing. You could feel the vibrations of the top hollow bit, and that was great to play. I loved playing that, and I wonder if it was because of the feeling as much as the actual neck itself or whatever. Yeah, and you obviously get that with acoustic guitars. You can feel the difference when you're playing and hear the difference of how loud it is. And I guess that's just where the tone wood debates come from, the tradition of acoustic instruments, presumably.
Yeah.
It's also super subjective, like what you're saying, Daniel. That's a subjective experience,
right?
That you're feeling, and everybody's different, and so you can't take that away from anybody. None of us can say that experience is not valid.
Yeah,
and tone wood doesn't matter. We just can't say that out loud because it creates too much division.
Yes, of course.
So I try not to say that as often as I can. I'm not going to say anything about tone wood. Just let people do what they want to do. But the science is all there.
But when a large builder, a well-known builder, like Paul Reed Smith says there's a difference, then you have to believe him.
Well, you know, then that's one of the things I've been trying to be more conscious of in my videos. Is I try to avoid making opinion-based statements in my videos. You know, I've seen a couple of builders that, you know, they'll post a video and I mean, they're clearly inputting their opinion as fact, you know, and I don't know. I was watching one guy who was saying that, you know, multi-laminate necks are guaranteed to fail over time because it's multi-laminates. They're going to delaminate. They're not going to be as sturdy as a solid piece of wood. I'm just like, Carvin's been doing multi-laminate necks since the 70s, and I have never once seen a multi-laminate neck delaminate. Now, if you don't like building multi-laminate necks, just go ahead and say that.
Yeah.
But to hold that kind of a statement out there when there's hundreds of thousands of examples where that's not the case at all. I don't know. I don't like that. I'm willing to say I'm not a fan of this, so that's why I don't do it. But making a broad statement based on an opinion's bad work. I don't like that.
Although I'll say that those type of like divisive statements usually have higher ratings and views.
Oh yeah, it drives the comments.
Yes, absolutely. It drives the comments. Like I have a video that's called I Don't Level Frets. And it was meant to be like clickbait, right? It was meant to be clickbait. And it's one of my best viewed videos. And I don't even read the comments because they're just nasty. Like they're just bad. It's like I don't even bother reading them anymore. It was meant to be clickbait, like I put my frets in on a CNC. Everything's on a CNC. My accuracy is like perfect. I literally don't have to level frets. But it wasn't like meant as like for a normal builder to like not level frets. But anyway.
Yeah, don't worry about that. That's a waste of time, right?
Right.
Interesting. See, I'm bad about those types of things. Things that will, drive views and comments. I wish I was geared toward thinking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, I think I've mentioned before that I've been using an AI program, so that what happens is there's a slight delay because even though it's AI, it still takes me a while. At the end of an episode like this, it's live on YouTube. I put the link into the AI program, and it divides it up into a series of 30 to 60 second clips. And then all I have to do is just watch them, because most of them are quite good, but some of them it's just pulled a bit together, which doesn't make any sense. And I delete the ones that aren't any good, and then I'll upload them to YouTube, or Instagram or wherever, just as a way of trying to promote it or get a conversation going. But one thing that's happened more recently is people have been commenting on the videos about the titles of the videos, which I hadn't paid any attention to because I just let the AI do it. And the AI is basically describing everything that ever happens as being the masterful work of a genius, basically. Everything that we talk about is, this is the truth behind such and such, or learn why guitars were always made in this way, or something like that. And of course, the clip doesn't really do that at all. But it knows these phrases are the ones that will drive traffic. And it is sort of working because people are commenting and going, now I've learned the secret behind whatever. We haven't revealed in any way at all.
That would explain a lot of my anguish with YouTube then. So many times the title just draws you in, and then in the end you're like,
what did that have to do with that?
Didn't tell me the answer to life, the universe, and everything.
42.
I want my 42 minutes back.
42 has already been discussed in this.
Is it?
How many guitars did you say you had?
Oh my gosh. That's it. I found the solution to life, the universe, and everything.
It's a one in, one out now.
What does that mean? Well, you got to understand the question.
I didn't even put that together. That's great. I need to stop building now.
Yeah. Hey, while we're talking about you building, can I just share your Instagram page? By the way, people watching, I put in the description a link to Jackson's YouTube and Instagram pages.
I will tell you, I'm not very active on Instagram. As you can see, that was the picture of the end of my GGBO 23, and I'm well into the new one that I'm working on. So that's my brother.
Just before we came online, we were discussing about how you got into guitar playing, and you said it was partly your brother and partly your uncle. Is that right?
Yeah, well, I mean, my mom and my dad both played, and my mom and dad both had classical acoustics. So that's really what I got started on. But my Uncle Bob was an actual, like, electric guitar touring rock star guitar player. I mean, not with anybody you've probably ever heard, although he did jam with Tommy Bolin several times, because we don't live far from Sioux City, Iowa. But, my Uncle Bob had Gibsons and Marshalls and stuff like that. And he got me and my brother Ron and my brother Jerry all playing guitar. So that's really what started that. But yeah, I mean, the first time I picked up a guitar, I was 6 years old. So I've had guitars around me all my life. And I'm not saying that to make it sound, oh, he's a prodigy. No, I'm not a prodigy. But you know, I've had the access to it for that many years. But yeah, my brother Ron was a big inspiration for me growing up as a kid playing guitar and stuff. He got me into metal and things like that. So
it must be, I say it must be just brilliant to make a guitar for someone that is not just that close to you, so you get to see it played and hear about it, but who was such an influence on you getting into guitars in the first place.
It was so cool. You know, I said it when they posted the results for GGBO 23, and I hadn't gotten any votes. And I was like, honestly, guys, I don't care. Seeing my brother's face when that guitar was done, that was all I needed to tell me that that was the best thing that I could have done. I mean, it was awesome. And he still plays it every single day. I mean, he's constantly playing it. So
that's brilliant. That makes it worthwhile. And here's your own Les Paul.
Yep.
Again, we were chatting off camera beforehand. I know it's not this guitar, but you were talking about the fact that your current build is a 7-string Les Paul because it's something that was just in manufacture. Do you say Epiphone for a little while?
Yeah.
Now they don't do it. So
yeah, Epiphone had a 7-string Les Paul for about 18 months, I think was how long that run went. And I don't think hardly anybody bought them because they were late to the party. You know, I mean, Ibanez already had flooded the market with 7-string guitars and stuff like that. And so, I mean, they had a 7-string on the market for a very brief period of time. It wasn't selling well, and they quit doing it. And a buddy of mine from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, who, you know, their band used to play with us a lot. And in fact, their lead guitar player was also our lead guitar player for a while. But their lead singer has one of those 7-string Epiphones. And I have begged Jim, I don't know how many times, to sell me that guitar, and he won't do it because he knows how rare they are. And so it's like I've watched Reverb and stuff like that to try and catch them. And when they do pop up, they're just insanely expensive now. And so it's like, you know what? I'm going to build one. And I'm going to put a Floyd Rose on it because I don't have a 7-string with a Floyd Rose. And I only have one Les Paul with a Floyd Rose. And so I'm just going to, you know, go off the beaten path here and do something wild.
That's cool.
And of course, the woods too, I'm doing completely different from what most Les Pauls are. I mean, it's still got a maple top, of course, because I like pretty wood, but it's got an ash body and with a quilt maple top, and then I've got a flame maple fretboard and a flame maple neck. So it's as anti-Les Paul as you can make a Les Paul.
And are you still in a band playing and performing?
Well, you know, I still go out with my drummer or my old drummer at least once a month for lunch and stuff. But Shatterbone is no longer a functioning thing. We've never officially called it quits, but we're all so busy with regular life and things that we typically don't have time to do it.
I guess I was wondering if you were going to be playing this instrument live and what it would be like building something.
I'm going to tell you, you know, this is breaking exclusive news here. There is a local band that wants me to come audition for them playing guitar and stuff like that. So I'm supposed to be doing that here in the next week.
Oh, excellent.
I'm not sure if I have enough time in my life to dedicate to playing in a band again, but we're going to see how it goes. So.
Oh, well, enjoy that. That's exciting.
I'd like to do it someday, but life's too full of junk already.
Yeah. I know I'm kind of worried about what it's going to do to my build schedule if I end up getting busy with a band. You know, I already struggle to get a video up once a week, and sometimes it's once every 2 weeks. And
Well, it's been like 3 months since I put a video out.
Yeah, I saw that.
Terrible.
It happens.
It takes time, and it's time I don't have now. And
well, at least you finished your last build, and you know, I mean, there's some guys that they're in the middle of a build and then they just stop posting. And
yeah, well, I kind of did, because I mean, I got the finale out, but there's still a load of footage after where I left off, and I hate that, because it's gonna look weird, you know, in chronological order. You see the finale, and then I get back to the you know, the regular minutia.
What
video.
took you to it?
Yeah, and I've got past builds that I haven't finished doing the stuff on, and every time I, you know, put something out, everybody thinks, you know, it's current, and it's confusing, and
yeah,
I hate being behind, but.
And that's one of the things I try not to do, because I get so many good comments. I mean, I get Todd comes in there, and Big Kahuna comes in there, and Goth Rider comes in there, and Borgonian Evolution, and you know, all these guys pop in on my videos, and they're like, "Hey, have you thought about trying this?" Or "Hey, if you did this, maybe this would work." Or "Hey," and I'm already 3 weeks past that video. You know, it's like, darn it. It would have been great if I'd have gotten that from you when I was in the middle of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I've tried to get the idea across that I never cared about Instagram. I never worried about my following or anything. But I found that, you know, when you spend the weekend in the shop, it's going to be weeks before I get around to putting, you know, that video together. But I mean, Saturday or Sunday, I can put, you know, progress stuff on Instagram all the time. And you know, I try to get the idea across. You want to know what's current, go look at Instagram. But
that's actually a really good idea.
Well, I've tried to gear everything towards YouTube. That was my main focus. But Instagram is a great way that I can, and it automatically posts junk to Facebook, which I don't care at all about. So spread the stuff out. The idea was to try to just get all these other places to funnel traffic to YouTube, and I don't know how well it's worked. I don't think all that well, but so Instagram is great just because you can just post a bunch of pictures just like that. You know, every time you actually make some progress in the shop, shoot some pictures, and you know, post them.
That's a good idea. I think I might start using that.
Yep.
I love that you both have this idea of wanting the current builds to be up for people to see as it progresses. I feel like I've stopped posting pictures of my builds for various reasons. But I mentioned last week, I think I'm going to start a new channel just to put things on about builds, and then have this channel for things like this. But I feel like if you're having things up when it's regularly happening, is that an opportunity for you to sort of get feedback as you're going along, or to motivate you? Is there a reason to do it and not just save it to when it's all done?
Well, yeah, like I said, I mean, I think it'd be great, you know, because I do get feedback. I mean, most of the people who watch my videos are fellow builders. I don't know, it doesn't seem to resonate with people as much who aren't really into guitars or into guitar building, you know. So, I mean, most of the people who watch my videos are builders, and so they show up with their knowledge, you know, the things they've done, the things they've been part of. And then they're like, "Oh, hey, when I ran into this a while back, I tried this." Yeah. And yeah, when I posted on YouTube, yeah, like you know, like Scott said, I'm 3 weeks down the road from that video by the time it hit YouTube. And it's like, geez, that would have been a great suggestion at the time, but I'm already blown by that now, and now I don't have a chance to back up and fix it. So
no, it's cool to think of the kind of community like that as a way of being a support and advice and for you developing it, and therefore it needs to be current so they can feedback when you need it.
That's so tough. I wonder how that could be accomplished, because I'm also like stacked 3 projects deep. That's the only way you can do a weekly schedule, right? So I'm literally stacked 3 projects deep. So when one project's done, I'll post that. But again, like I'm already like 3 weeks in the future. So I wonder how one could actually accomplish that, to take in all those comments and those suggestions and ideas and make them sort of synchronous to like what we're doing in our builds.
I mean, from the way we're talking, it would almost be like you have a video about part of your build, and then you don't carry on with the build until you've edited the video and put it up. And then I don't think I could do that. I'd lose motivation, and I want to get on with it. I'm too excited.
Yeah, no, you reply with, "Oh man, that's a great idea," and then 3 weeks later they just piece together that you went a different route.
Yeah, that's true too.
But that using Instagram like that is a great thing, isn't it? Because it could feed back into a later video or an actual bit of the project.
There was a time when pretty much anything I did over the weekend, I was just amazed at the progress and the state of it and how much better it looked than it did last week. And so I would post pictures on my personal Facebook, for the people that know me to see. I got used to just showing progress and and like I said, for me, it's always been about the process. So, for you to be able to see, step by step how this came together has, always been interesting to me. So, posting progress is just part of the deal. And, I do want to try to keep the audience, engaged somewhat. Let's say that, having not posted a single thing in 3 months.
Yeah, it's so hard. I mean, attention spans nowadays are microseconds. I mean, if you don't keep on top of posting and stuff like that, people gravitate away from you pretty quickly. And
however, I have never understood why somebody would unsubscribe. I mean, unless you said something horrific on some video, some political opinion or something. Why? Why would anybody unsubscribe? Well, I haven't seen a video in a month, so screw that guy. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. There's absolutely no harm in staying subbed. So, oh, hey, now that popped up. It blows my mind why people do it. I don't.
Yeah, it's weird.
I don't get it.
Yeah, no, I only unsubscribe when I go in and out of different interests or hobbies. So I might subscribe to loads of people that make content about a certain thing, and then like for a long time I was watching lots of board game development videos, and then a few months ago I unsubscribed from all of them because I just wanted to watch guitars, and then I was getting these things that I would just skip through all the time. I'm currently unsubscribing from all my friends on Instagram because I just want to, it's too distracting. I don't want to use social media in that way. I want to use social media just to look at guitar things.
I want anti-social media.
I guess that makes sense.
I talk to my friends as friends, and I need another account really so I can still see things of theirs. But
right. When I get this, in particularly with that wasn't English, with Instagram, when I get new followers, I'll go look and see what their stuff is. And when they're guitar builders and they got some interesting content, I always, follow back. When it's, friends or something like that, when it's a personal account, I don't, I don't, I love you, dude, but I don't need to see what you had for breakfast and, what your kid looks like this week. And I feel a little guilty about that, but at the same time, I don't need my feed filled with, everybody else's personal shit.
Yeah. And I used it, going all the way back to MySpace. I used that as a way to keep in contact with all the other bands that we were, booking gigs with and stuff like that. And a lot of them stayed friends. So then Facebook came along and, then I added them on Facebook and stuff too. But then, you get to see everybody's life, not just the music stuff. You get, like you said, their political opinions and what they ate for breakfast. And it's just.
That's what personal Facebook is for. Everything else is strictly guitar build or guitar,
And maybe I need to just build a Big Unit Guitars Facebook page so I can keep the personal stuff aside from the music stuff.
Mm-hmm. I do. I don't spend any time there.
Yeah, I'd do the same as Scott with Facebook. It's good like that. Yeah, but you're also, Jackson, you're on the chats a lot. So I see you popping up on live streams. I don't watch Crimson live streams that often, but whenever I do, you're there. And the same with the Daily Guitar Draw. So that feels like a whole other audience of people.
I'm a friendly fella. I like talking to people. So I talk for a living. So, nowadays I teach electrical. So I go all over the United States and teach electrical safety, national electrical code, specific topics out of the electrical code, and stuff like that. So yeah, that's my bread and butter. I talk for a living. So I get a bit too talky in my videos sometimes. I have a tendency to just sit there and talk, and it's like I'm not getting any building done. I'm just talking,
I do that a lot too. Ramble.
Yeah.
I know for me, some of the channels I like watching and the podcasts I like listening to are people that do chat and ramble a lot, and they're quite good for me in the background when I'm working. It sort of feels like someone's there. You kind of have a connection with them that's not just them reeling facts off. It's being a person.
It's funny you say that. The most what's the word? Not praise, but the most positive feedback I've gotten from people is that, we really appreciate your, stream of consciousness, talking, blah, blah, blah. And when I'm doing anything, I'm thinking, shut up, for God's sakes. This dude never shuts up. Just get less talky, more worky. Get your shit done.
Yeah.
It resonates with a lot of people for some reason.
Well, and I think it depends on who it is too. Because like Patrick over at Adventures of the Shed of Dreams, I can sit there and watch his videos for hours because he's like the Matthew McConaughey of guitar builders. He's got this nice, soft, slow voice. It's very calming. It's very soothing. I'm like the Jack Black of guitar builders. Okay, I'm loud. I'm boisterous. I've got a big voice. So it's different when you're. And I mean, as a teacher, it's great because nobody likes having Ben Stein for a teacher. I mean, I try to be upbeat and bold when I'm lecturing and stuff like that, and I get a lot of positive feedback for that. But yeah, when it comes to videos, it's like like Scott said, shut up and just get to the building.
There are
like that stream of consciousness that you're talking about, Scott, is totally natural. Like, I think we all do it, and I have to try to stop myself just like you, but I stop myself in the editing process. And the hard part is just trying to find a gap when I'm just not talking so I can cut it. But there's like rarely a gap because I'm just talking. And I honestly think people don't want to listen to that. That's what I think. People tell me that I put them to sleep.
In a good way, though. In a good way.
Maybe. But yeah, it's also about average view time. Like I'm looking at analytics, right? So what's the average view time? And if the average view time is short, it means, I'm putting people to sleep. So I tend to try to not do that stream of consciousness, even though it happens naturally.
Problem I run into is I'm constantly looking for what to cut, and when I'm talking, especially because I want to show some action. But I find myself thinking, no, that's important. I have to have that little detail in there. And, like you said, you can't find a break. And if I cut here and put this together, there's no continuity and it doesn't make any damn sense. It's a nightmare tightrope.
I've had it a couple times where I end a video and you can hear that when I'm talking, I've ended on a high note because I'm still planning on finishing a sentence with something else, but it's like I don't need all that at the end. And then it sounds like I'm ready to finish a sentence, and then it's the end of my video.
I've started using, so I use Premiere Pro to edit with, and it's got a function now where you can transcribe a video, and it puts the transcription up, and it's just like editing a Word document. So I can cut a bit out, move a bit here, move a bit there, delete a whole section, and then you just watch the playback, and it takes a lot less time. It seems to, when I cut, even in the middle of a sentence, it seems to cut it quite well, so it doesn't have the same janky cut that sometimes happens when I do it manually, and then I have to go back in and edit. The only problem I'm having is the transcription software is not very good, or it doesn't like my voice or something. So sometimes I'm reading back what I've said and I can't understand what it's transcribed or so I have to go back and watch that clip in the video. But it does save so much time, and it's been brilliant for my editing because I never script anything. I just chat away. And it's definitely made my video shorter. It's made my editing shorter. But I don't know how many programs offer that now. Because I only use that one, but I think that's the way forward for me anyway, for editing.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, I didn't either. I use Filmora Wondershare. And I mean, it works. It's very user friendly, which is good for me because I'm bad at homework. I mean, when it comes time to read a manual on how to run something or things like that, I glaze over pretty quickly, you know. So it's like when it comes to software editing and things like that, where I'm not good at it at all. When it, you know, pull up a software program that's going to edit videos and stuff like that, I just want to be able to click, copy, paste, cut, and that's about it, and call it good, you know. And it's I don't want to say it's dummy proof, but it's definitely dummy friendly. Let's put it that way.
There are several things I really need to learn. Using 360, DaVinci.
Yeah.
But when it comes to cutting video together, and we've discussed this, when it comes to cutting video together, I want to grow and learn some new things and work with something that's a little more sophisticated. But at the same time, I just want to get this out.
Yeah,
editing is painful enough. I just want to chop this together and go. And this I'm used to. This works. I know how to do this. So it's hard to force myself into, you know, using something else.
Yeah, I will say in GGBO 22, when Ben said, you know, you've got to have a video journal of your build, that almost turned me off of even trying it. But then it was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. And I'm glad that was a stipulation then, because it forced me to get to the point where I can at least, you know, basically edit guitar build videos and stuff like that. Where this year, you know, they said, oh, you can just send photographs in. And it was like, okay, but we're not generating any more builders with videos then, you know. It's like everybody's just like, oh, I'm just going to do camera and that'll be good.
I think there was a lot of trepidation about that. And I've never understood people that a lot of people actually put something out, but, you know, no voice. And I've never understood why people are afraid to have their voice on camera. But I don't know.
I've never understood why people have stage fright either, but some people are mortified by being up in front of a crowd.
That's a little different. You've got people in front of you.
Yeah.
Screw up with video. I mean, you can edit it all you want. And I never understood that. I know nobody likes the sound of their voice, you know, recorded, but once you've edited, you know, like 2 hours of video, that goes away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember when my recorded voice sounded strange to me because I've heard it so much now.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It sounds the same to me now.
For years, I couldn't listen to my own music because I didn't like the way it sounded in post. I liked the way it sounded when I was playing it live, but listening to it back, it was like, I don't like the way my vocals sound, or I don't like the way that sounds, or that sounds like it's off a little bit, or things like that, you know. But after you step away from it for a couple of years and go back, now it's like, oh, I know why I love these songs now, you know. It just took a little time to get a separation from it.
On that note, Jackson, is there somewhere we can listen to your stuff?
Yeah, Shatterbone is on Spotify. You can find all our albums there. There's 3 of them. There's Off the Rail, Sledge, and Evolution.
I'm just typing it in now.
Okay.
And I can put a link in the description later. There we go. Oh yeah, I was going to say, total tangent. I haven't tried this yet, but that AI thing that I use is called Opus Clip. It's what I drop this video in at the end. You can drop an unedited video into it as well, and it will edit it down for you. And again, you can pick how long the clips are. So you could record half hour, ask it to edit it down into 10 minutes or whatever, and you can give it topics, and it will pull out the moments in the video when you've talked about those topics. Now, I don't know how well it works, but things like this, I think, are potentially going to make video editing much quicker. And I wonder if that might be how we get our videos quickly made so that they're up at the concurrent with our builds.
Yeah, on that note, Daniel, I think, we're all talking about video editing, guitar builders in particular, video editing, but I think guitar builders in particular are kind of forgetting the fundamentals of actually recording. And that starts off with really high quality video and really high quality audio. And I made a video, I think for GGBO 2022, I don't know, where I go over all my gear. And I talk about one of the most important things I think that's important is shooting in 4K. And I talk about why that's important. And that's because we want to have some type of future proofing, right? So when someone goes onto YouTube and types in, how do you carve a neck? You might get a whole lot of videos that are shot in 1080p or less, but then you'll get yours that are shot in 4K. And it's pretty clear which one people are going to click on, right? And YouTube, the algorithm prefers 4K videos. So I think it's not just about editing, it's about the content that you're actually capturing in the moment and the quality of that content. When it comes to things like audio, my audio chain is this long. I have probably 15 plugins just for my voice, right? People don't think about that, or guitar builders, right? And I think we need to start thinking about that. We need to start thinking about the actual capturing of the actual raw content before we even think about editing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have given that some thought because my audio was trash. And my cameras are not fantastic either. And that's probably one of the places where I really need to upgrade. But audio, I don't have a clue. And having to wear the lapel and sync in post and all that.
And are you implying, Mark, that you edit your audio separate to your video?
Or I capture straight onto the SD card with my lav mic, my wireless mic, but in post, I have a vocal chain, basically, the same plugins I'd use for any kind of music production. So, you got to start off with a noise gate, because I don't want to have to cut out all the breath when I'm breathing or any of the kind of little noises. And you got to run through a compressor, right, to even everything out. And you have to run through, a limiter. And I even have a sibilance plugin to get rid of all those S's. So I put a lot of thought and effort into how my voice sounds.
So I have all of that in Premiere Pro, but I was speaking, I don't know if you know Henning Pauly. He does Etsy Pie, I think, I can't remember, I don't know how you say it loud. I've met him a couple of times. I met him at an event where he was filming, and he brought along his equipment, and he brought it along in the back of a car that he'd driven over to the UK from Germany. And there was all these boxes and really high-tech equipment and things. And it was incredible, the amount of production he puts into his videos. But he does all his audio editing of his own voice in a totally separate program to the video editing, because he's got much more control, he feels, in that. So it's a bit like doing everything twice. You edit your video, and then you export the audio out of it, edit the audio in this program, then drop it back in. But his videos are a thrill to watch, and part of that is because he's so into his filmmaking as well. Mm-hmm. But it is, as you're saying, the quality of it makes it sometimes more enjoyable or easier to watch. And I hadn't thought about that idea of it being future proof at all. I watched a video the other day that was in a square format, and I was thinking, that's so weird, isn't it? But of course, square format is what you get on certain, well, for a little while it was on Instagram anyway, people doing the vertical now. But yeah, things do date and you do notice it. And
yeah. And when it comes to video, it's the same thing. Like, I'm not just shooting at 4K, but I'm just starting to shoot in 10-bit, just higher bit rates, so that we can maintain, the difference between the lights and the darks, because I don't want to see any of my video elements crushed. I don't want to see any kind of artifacts. I want it to be pretty crystal clear. Lighting's important too. Like, I like to have the colored lights in my background to make my face pop. And I have 3-point lighting in my shop. Like my workshop, I have 3-point lighting system with a key light, a hair light, and a fill light. So that's like pretty hardcore, I think. And a lot of builders don't do that. Maybe Ben does that. But I think that's something that's super important because it's going to make you stand out from everybody else.
Yeah.
Well, I've known for a long time, low video quality and for whatever reason, especially low audio quality, pushes people away. Or at least good quality draws people in and makes if it looks like a decent production, you're a lot more interested and invested in it for some reason. But yeah,
one of the things I've been struggling with for the last several weeks is my shop. I use a Canon propane heater, so like a job site Canon, and holy cow, the background noise out of that thing. So I got a directional microphone for the camera. I'm hoping it'll cut that out a little bit more so it doesn't, because it almost sounds like I've got a static noise in the background with just the camera microphone.
My background noise problems are summer related because, for one thing, the air conditioner unit is right inside the shop, so it kicks on and it's loud as hell. And I've got doors at both ends, and I want them both open so I have some breeze. And that stupid thing makes noise all the time. But then I'll have a fan on me, and inevitably it's buffering the.
I had a video last summer. I had a crow that was just desperate to be part of the video.
The neighbor's dog always wants to be in the video.
Oh yeah.
Or the neighbor's yard people, then they like to run their weed eater for hours. It's insane. Yep. But it was I don't remember if it was the first GGBO or the second one, but my mother had this wind chime, and I never noticed it. It's been there for so long, I don't even hear it, and people were complaining about it on the video. So I actually, in video, went out and taped it up. So the audience who all hated my wind chime. So
that's outstanding.
It's crazy. Yeah. The whole nother subject is talking about music and videos. Generally people tell you not to do that because whatever you choose, it's going to annoy somebody. And
can't make everyone happy. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But I love it when it is, for example, in Jackson's, your own music. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've seen, I don't know, like I said, for most of us builders, we're a fairly tightly knit community, and I think a lot of us go to the same resources and stuff. So it's like I've heard the same 4 or 5 cookie cutter background songs that they can pick off of one of the free share websites to use on their videos in like half a dozen different builders' videos. It's like, oh, hey, I recognize that tune. That's the same one Ben uses.
Yeah.
It's like, so yeah, it's like nobody's using ours. They get copyright claims. So
yeah, some of those I hum along when I hear them because I've used them 30 or 40 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've just checked, and for some reason, the link that I've put for, oh no, it's working now. So the link I've put in the video description for Jackson's YouTube channel seems to be working now.
Oh, good.
Before it, for some reason, it kept cutting it off and not doing it as a link. But I think now it's clickable. But also there is a clickable link to Shatterbone on Spotify. But like I said, I've been listening to some of it in the background of his videos.
Soothing.
So great. Soothing
music, right?
Well, yeah, do you know, I find, well, there's definitely times in my life anyway, where I found cranking some really loud, aggressive metal is quite relaxing. It's kind of like, maybe it's like having an intensive massage. there's something about it that calms me down.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's why when you hear people using it, not people, where you hear that like metallic has been used to torture someone with blasting it, I'm like, that's brilliant.
I'm trying to remember. Yeah, you said something like you said that, and I'm trying to remember. Was it Afghanistan maybe that they used Cannibal Corpse to try and get a bunch of insurgents out of a place that they were dug in? They just blasted Cannibal Corpse at them for days on end. It's like, man, that's not torture, you know. Start playing Carpenters. I'll come running. Okay, stop it, really. No.
Let's go.
What a note to end on.
Right, one more thing I got to show you, though. I don't know if you guys have seen this in my video.
I was trying to work out what was going on there. I could hold on. Let me do it like this.
Mrs. Unit made that for me. So
I saw the what wood and a bald head. And to start with, I wasn't sure if it was a bald head or the moon that I was looking at.
When I first started building, she asked me that, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 times. What would Ben do? What would Ben do? It's like, there's a mantra. I'm making a t-shirt out of that. And she's so super crafty. She made it for me. So
hilarious.
Nice. You should show it to Ben and get them to sell them on there.
I actually did. He's like, it's very flattering and a bit embarrassing. But yeah, you know, I got to give her a shout out though. I mean, if it wasn't for Mrs. Unit, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. You know, she is the person behind the camera. She is the one who's always, you know, kind of being my own personal cheerleader when I'm getting down and frustrated and stuff like that. So yeah, she's a big part of this. So, and she's in the chat.
Yeah.
Love you, honey. So anyway,
absolutely brilliant to have someone like that to support you.
You know, I know you guys were talking last week about, you know, that being one of the hardest parts, doing the camera stuff and yeah, to have her, because she loves all things camera. So to have her lift that weight makes my life so much easier. I get to just focus on building and she does all the shooting. So
That would be nice.
I was going to say that's potentially a way to speed it up if you have someone working with you to do it, and that's what you've got.
Yeah, and she enjoys it. It's not like I got to drag her out. So there's days she's dragging me out there because I'm like, I don't really want to today.
I would love to have like a team of unpaid interns
That'd
do
be
everything,
awesome.
like sanding, vacuuming my shop floor. Maybe I'll teach you a little bit about building guitars, and too. Yeah.
Everybody complains about the electronics, man. For me, by far, the absolute worst is the sanding. Oh, I hate the sanding.
Sanding, finish, electronics.
Just have the interns do it. Yeah.
I'm worried about the fact that on video, I have this growing list of things that I say on camera. This is not my favorite part. And it just seems to be getting bigger, and I'm like,
what part is your favorite part?
What part is my favorite part?
Not this part.
Alley. Yeah.
I need some more Oompa Loompas.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd just be happy to have a team of videographers.
Actually, I watched a video the other day of a guitar factory, and I can't remember which factory it was, but there were just like lots of people, and it was like a conveyor belt. So someone's job was to route a certain bit, and someone was doing sanding. And I was thinking that is so depressing watching this idea that it is a person's job to spend all day just sanding like this bit of the horn or something over and over again. And it's the exact opposite of what we see in the guitar builders that we watch, who are putting that time and passion into it, Not that these people aren't good at what they're doing, but it just doesn't feel the same at all.
What a way to suck the soul out of it,
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I've had guys ask me too, is when are you going to start selling them? It's like, I don't know if I'll ever do that, to be honest, because I mean, what I might do is I'll take a list of people who might be interested, and I might pick that person and say, okay, if you're ready to commit financially, I'm ready to commit to building you a guitar. But to do it as a manufacturer, all of a sudden it's not a hobby, it's a job. I already got a job, I don't want to make it work. I want it to be fun. So
yeah, that's where I am. It's been hobby, and I really want to keep it that way.
Yeah.
Strangely, that's definitely why I've fallen out of wanting to make guitars at the moment, is because I've been making some for other people, so commissions, which I always used to think was the thing I enjoyed the most. But actually, I want to go and do these ideas I've got in my head, but I can't do them at the moment because I'm doing these other ones. So my current deadline is this weekend. After that, I'm going to stop these ones I'm working on, and they're done. I can't just keep going on with them, and I need to get on with my own things.
But I've also thought about the fact that a lot of the things I do, I want the freedom to do what I want to do because I want to try new things. Because I want to know that I can do this and that I have done this and have that skill. And if I'm building this repertoire of skills and I'm not planning on going into, then it leaves me wondering why do I need all these skills if I'm not going to put it to use?
Well, as I say to some people, if you're enjoying it and having fun, that is more than enough reason often to do things.
Yeah, and maybe it's just the discovery or proving to myself that you can actually do this, or I don't know. I like knowing that, okay, I've worked with this now, I know how to do it,
And I think that was my springboard too, just to prove to myself that I could do it, Yeah, and talking to you too, when you I remember you were doing your 22 build and you're getting ready to do the router, and I hear you deep sigh, and you're like, oh, here we go, and I'm just like, good, I'm not the only one who's scared to death of using the router. Okay. Just like what a fantastic way to completely obliterate something at warp speed,
Right, on that, I feel like we better end. We've been going on for quite a long time. Not that it hasn't been fun. It's been brilliant. Thanks again, Jackson. Links to everything Jackson are in the video description, as are for Guitar Builders Collective and us. Actually, I've got to add Mark to that. Sorry, Mark, I've not put you in yet. Great. So next week, as Scott said, we've got Dave Dixon, who is the jig meister.
Dickens.
Or maybe not. Dickens. Oh.
He makes his own music too, and uses a lot of it in his videos.
Why I get everyone's names wrong. It's all right. Well, thanks everyone in the chat, and see you all soon. Bye.
Hasta la taco.
Are you looking for an excuse to build a guitar? Or do you just want to be part of the community and see other people's builds? Why not take part in the Yergs Cup? It's a community build-along where anyone can take part by simply sharing your builds either as photos or videos on social media, and using the hashtag YergsCup, you can engage in conversations in the comments section and get feedback from others. The build-along is named after Jürgen Zoller of Zoller Guitars, a valued member of the Guitar Builders Collective who regularly commented on other people's builds, giving them encouragement and ideas. The whole point of this build-along is to grow the community, to make online friends, to share ideas and inspire others. This year's competition ends on the 23rd of April, and if you're stuck for inspiration, this year we have an optional theme, Use What You've Got. You can find out more via the Guitar Builders Collective forum, the Instagram page, or our Facebook